So just as a real quick overview of what we're about to do is I do have a slide deck that's gonna, we're gonna talk about the action plan. We're gonna talk about some few next steps that are involved in your soil health stewards journey. And then we have invited, and she accepted, Miss Maggie Bloomstrom, who is from the Piedmont Environmental Council, and she was just like you in April. So in April, in this very same session, we had somebody from the September cohort come in and talk about why in the world did we apply, and we're really glad we applied and what we learned in the training, how they came up with their action plan. Maggie's just going to walk us through the story of where her organization is at this point. And so it's more like we just talked about, farmers being peer-to-peer. This is like a peer-to-peer situation where Maggie came in to this training in April. And so if you have questions for her, if you have questions about your action plan, now's the time to do that. So I'm going to go through some slides, and then I'm going to let Maggie come on. So does anybody have any questions about that? I will say I can't see the chat, Jamie or Chris. I can no longer see the chat in Pathable. So if there's anything I need to know, let me know.
Can do.
Okay. Can you all see my screen?
Yes.
Perfect. Oop, and you can also see everybody else. Okay, there we go. So I feel compelled to quickly go over the fact that the reason you're in this room is there was an invitation-only application process that started earlier this year, where we sent invitations to apply for the Soil Health Stewards grant to people in the country, in the Midwest and beyond, as you can tell. Entities, both land trust and public entities that hold FRPP easements. So those applications came in, they were awarded, and part of that award is that the person who applied could appoint, invite, voluntold up to 2 people to come to this training. And this training, as you know, is just for this week. And part of that is also $10,000 to go toward the support of the hours that you're spending in this room, as well as supporting some actions that you might want to take to continue or begin to talk with your landowners and operators about soil health. So that $10,000 comes in 3 distributions. One has already been sent out pre-training. The second one goes out once you have submitted your Soil Health Stewards action plan. And by the time I'm done, you're going to know what that means. And the third distribution, the final distribution, goes out at the end of this year, at the end of our year together. So it'll be around September, October of next year, where we'll check in one more time about the progress of your action plan. And so I want everybody to realize that we're real sensitive to the fact of we don't want to cause you more work. The fact that you're here, we're hoping is a learning opportunity and something that expands your knowledge and your level of comfort in talking about soil health on protected land when you can. So this plan is a roadmap. It's kind of how we refer to it, is the Soil Health Steward Action Plan. And let me back up and start by saying you all received, so I forgot this part, sorry. You all should have received an envelope in the mail that's got a folder in it. And inside that folder is a printout of a Soil Health Stewards promoting the example and template for this plan. It's also in the file section of this session. So I'm going to refer to those a couple of things in just a moment. But the point of this action plan is to start thinking about how you can take what you've learned and your incredible enthusiasm about talking to your landowners and operators about soil health. And like we've mentioned all day, is whatever wording works for you. If it's talking about their operation, if it's talking about how their yields are going, you know, how whatever it can door can open that conversation about talking about conservation practices and soil health practices. You know that better than we do. We just hope we're giving you tools to be able to open that parachute, if you will. So the roadmap and the soil health action plan is applied to already protected land, as well as you move into the future and protected land or land you'll protect in the future. Some examples, again, you can refer to the file in the sessions, you can refer to the printout. The action plans, actions can be things like talk to your board about this training. Staff that aren't here in this room, talk to them about what you've just learned. There's discussions that you can have on your stewardship visits. There are discussions you can have as you enter in to the acquisition process. And then there's just general communication. Sometimes your constituency might not be folks that are necessarily involved with an easement at this point, but may be thinking about it in the future. Or you might have people that are members of your organization that help support the work that you do. Think outside, you know, think about all the folks that you might be able to communicate with. And so the template, again, they're on the printout, there's a whole list of all kinds of things that could be actions that you might include in your action plan. And what we're going to expect is that in the Excel file that is in the sessions, in the file sessions, we're going to expect you to send us back that Excel file that uses the yellow portions of this file. This picture on screen right now is the whole Excel file. You're going to see both the yellow side and the blue side. And on the yellow side is what you're going to submit to us when we ask for the Soil Health Steward Action Plan. And remembering back to the beginning of the day yesterday when Chris did her session on the introduction of how to talk to landowners, there's touch points that we talked about. You know, it's the touch points during acquisition, it's the touch point during stewardship, it's the touch point during just basic relationship building. You can use those as a reference to when you might actually reach out and do an action. Then you're going to give us a proposed action. We're going to ask, this is just organization. You can use, if you need to list tasks to get to that action, you're welcome to, and you're welcome to give us a proposed timeline. But the main things are going to be this, what the proposed action is. And here's an example. Okay, so this is an actual soil health steward action plan that was submitted. In the touch point, they want to say that they said that they want to distribute soil health packets. In the proposed action, they want to create the soil health information packets to distribute to easement landowners, the task for completion, and their proposed timeline. So this was, again, the action plan is a roadmap on actions that will get you closer to engaging people about soil health and the soil health practices that you've learned. At the end of the year, before the end of the year, we're going to have 2 check-ins, and this next slide is going to give you the dates for those. Those check-ins will be via Zoom. Sorry, and not sorry, really, but Zoom. We're gonna meet via Zoom, and we're going to ask you to give us information about the progress that you're making on your action plan. We realize that within a year, you can't necessarily go to a farm and say, hey, would you like to plant some cover crops? Have that farmer plant the cover crops and see whether or not it's worked for him in a year. We're not looking for actions that are gonna like that. We're looking for actions that again are listed on this piece of paper, things that you feel comfortable with, that you feel like you can begin on. And we want to make sure when we do those check-ins that the progress that you're making is something that is helpful to you and your organization. At the end of that year, we're not looking for completion of these actions. We're looking for progress made. And this blue part is in the same Excel file is going to be something that we're going to prompt you to complete. So as you're doing these actions, as you're writing them, and as you're actually performing them, some things we hope you kind of keep in mind are how many landowners are you talking to? How many, are you on FRPP land? How many acres are impacted? Now, this is not a calculator. We're not looking for down to the inch. This is something that just kind of gives us an idea and you an idea of the progress that is being made. So just a few metrics from the September training. Of those soil health steward action plans that were submitted, 94% of them said that they were going to distribute information. That distribution can be in your stewardship letter that goes out before you make your site visits. It can be your social media. Some organizations started putting soil health tips on their website. Some organizations have newsletters, electronic and hard copy, that they started incorporating soil health practice and information in. 76% said that they were going to facilitate training for staff. A lot of folks said, there's 15 of us, only 2 of us are in this room. We're going to have a lunch, lunch and learn, and talk about what we just experienced. 71% said that they were going to conduct field days or more of them. Another chunk of people said that they're going to identify and contact soil health technical services. To the point of that last session, do you know your service providers? And do you want to start creating a relationship with them so that you can connect them to the landowners who might be asking you questions? Because soil health is in the news, and it is a buzz, and it is something good. 41% of the people from September said that they were going to implement an internal tracking system. That's good for them. And then another 24% said that they would include information on their website. When I mention that folks are distributing information and that they're training staff, I want to let you guys know, I'm just going to do all these animations at once, that you're not alone during this at all. We have, again, those check-in meetings are going to happen 6 months apart, one in March and one in July. And one thing we haven't even really talked about yet, and I've wanted to put it in the chat, but I really want you guys to come back tomorrow. Every single thing that we've done for September, April, and October is being recorded. So, and for April and for September, April, and for this month, we've also invested in a videographer to take this raw Zoom footage and put it into videos that don't have me eating my snacks or us waiting for the timer to go by. They've cut down the videos, and we have created a soil health stewards toolkit that I'm going to click on and see what happens. Is available, again, this link, the slide deck and everything is available in American Farmlands Trust Farmland Information Center. And in this is always evolving. We have materials, we have videos. We're going to have all versions of the videos that Bianca has done, so I want you to realize that when we ask about a soil health stewards action plan, there's this training, there's the videos, there's the toolkit. You can literally write us if you want an example. We've given you hard copy information about what you can do and how you can build that soil health steward action plan. And it's not just about the action plan. Again, we feel like that was a way to help you organize your thoughts in this next year, because we are going to be together for a year, and we're going to hope that that journey starts today and continues. beyond that year. So the action plans that I'm talking about are going to be due by November 20th. And we're going to send you, after this training, we're going to send you a copy of the Excel file. We're going to prompt you, and we're going to track whether or not you've submitted that. Once that's submitted, that second distribution of the grant goes out. And then you can send those to me. And then we'll have a couple of check-ins, like I mentioned, in March and in July. It's really hard to write that date, July 26, 2023. And after that, we'll prompt you on what the evaluation looks like. One last thing, and then I'm going to introduce Maggie to kind of talk about her soil health stewards journey, is this is a picture of actually, you have a sample in your folder. You all got a little sample of this folder that is available for free to you all. And you can put it in your action plan, where this little window right here is meant for you to be able to brand, like put your organization's logo and information here. And then with some of the case studies, the basics from NRCS, you might have information about soil health. This can become something that you use as an outreach piece. The people from September and the people from April have collectively ordered about 3,000 of those and have spoken highly about being able to have that branded piece of information to use and on their in their mailings or their outreach. And so I feel like I just kind of glazed over that. I'm happy to answer questions at the end, but I do really want for you all to hear, not from me, but from Maggie, whose last name is Bloomstrom. And Maggie, I'm going to try this. She is the Rappahannock Rapid Conservation Initiative Coordinator. I can't wait to hear how those are actually pronounced, from the Piedmont Environmental Council. So Maggie, if you could start telling a story, that would be awesome.
Yes, of course. So thank you again, Maggie Bloomstrom, and it's pronounced Rappahannock Rapidan. There are two rivers in our area. Conservation Initiative Coordinator with the Piedmont Environmental Council. So PEC is just a community nonprofit organization that was founded 50 years ago. So it's our birthday year. And we protect and promote the natural resources, rural economy, history, and beauty of the Virginia Piedmont. So basically, like, the buckets of work that we do here could be like land and water conservation, land use planning, and then like wildlife connectivity is essentially what we do here. PEC holds about 83 easements and fee properties in those 9 counties, over about 20,000 acres. But we've contributed to the larger conservation effort in the 9 counties. So just here in our region, we have over 430,000 acres of protected property. So it's pretty significant. So Seth asked me to just spin a web of a story about why we decided to apply for the grant and then what we've been doing since April. So we really decided to apply because PEC works with a lot of farmers and landowners on a whole range of stewardship issues, not just conservation easements. So we engage with landowners to help them enroll in cost share programs through local soil and water conservation districts, NRCS, or other state and federal programs to do water quality, improvements like livestock exclusion fencing, alternative watering system, cover crops, rotational grazing, summer stockpiling, all those things that maybe a lot of you also do in your neck of the woods. And then we also work with easement holders and non-easement holders alike to install and enhance riparian buffer plantings along all waterways at no cost to them. We also have a farm, about 130-acre farm in a highly urbanized area close to the Washington, D.C. metropolitan area, where we have nonstop hordes of adorable school children and area residents coming to plant vegetables that we contribute to the local food pantry, and just use it as a way to engage with the public. We are also part of the Virginia Grassland Bird Initiative with American Farmland Trust, the Smithsonian, NRCS, and Quail Forever to really work with landowners to stem the tide of grassland bird decline and then work with folks on the resiliency of working landscapes. Increasingly, we are doing more and more NRCS agricultural land easements, or the old FRPP of many years ago. And so we've been very successful in getting pretty much the entire state of Virginia's share of that NRCS AL funding in our neck of the woods, in our 9-county region. This just goes to show that Virginia needs more NRCS AL money, but that is another time. I will go down that rabbit hole. But with all of these projects, it really led us to think about, like, is there an opportunity for staff to learn more about soil health so we can share this with the landowners that we engage with in all of these arenas of where we have this opportunity to talk with landowners, farmers, just stewards of the land and the water about how they can make small improvements for soil health and other downstream resources. So I would say that before the training, I had basic knowledge, let's say zero knowledge. I liken my soil health knowledge at the time to like art, like it when you see it, like I could see what bad soil might look like, clumpy, runoffy, like all of that sort of stuff. But beyond that, I really could not speak intelligibly about it whatsoever. And I would say that after the training, like after I was just bombarded with all of this information, like drinking from a fire hose, that I was overwhelmed, but I feel really grounded in this information now. I think during the process, I thought that I had to be an expert, and that is not it whatsoever. I already know that we have a lot of experts that we work with, Soil and Water, NRCS, Virginia Tech Extension, and not to mention the farmers themselves who are the soil health experts, but really trying to figure out what my role was and how I could, use that comfortable space that I'm in as a convener, as somebody that helps with outreach and education to really hold folks' hands on this journey and my journey as well. And so it wasn't really until I sat down to actually write that soil health action plan that Beth was flipping through that I kind of figured out what that role might be and how it might be able to evolve over time. So when developing the action plan, some of the first steps that I took was to really look internally, like within our organization in and of itself, to how we could elevate soil health into our existing work and communications. So that might be like an easement 101 material for prospective easement donors and landowners, something we can talk about during landowner site visits and other stewardship related activities. How we could just integrate it into our easement monitoring communications for existing easement donors. So not even like going outside of the area that we're comfortable with. How we could integrate it into our volunteer tree planting efforts or into our volunteer farm. And then finally, integration into our bread and butter existing landowner outreach efforts and field days, like those easement 101 presentations or whatever else. And also looking internally to really review staff interest and strengths, how we can incorporate that into our existing work plans, because all of this takes work, which is like hours out of your day. And then how these plans or program priorities might evolve and grow with soil health as a focused opportunity area. And then we also had to determine who our audience was and if anyone was missing. And then outside of looking internally, looking externally into our existing potential agency and organizational partners. And then really to allow latitude to be flexible and open to adjust as new opportunities arise or partners get busy too. And so to let people just ebb and flow as they might. So as Beth mentioned, I took the training in April. And so she wanted me to give an update about like what's going on, what's fresh at PEC. So I want to be honest, it was a really slow start because we all have so much stuff on our plates. Like you're taking a whole week off basically to do this very important work, but that means your other very important work is on the back burner and just like accumulating emails. So I think Beth and Chris and others were really generous to be like, this takes time. So that was really great. And then we've also had staff turnover, you know, like the other guy that took this training with me is no longer with the Piedmont Environmental Council. He's starting his own farm someplace else. So, you know, there was some ebb and flows of like who on staff was like completely plugged in to the soil health plan and really keeping track of the deliverables along the way. We started with really low-hanging fruit, so stuff that we could like do quickly in-house. And again, I'm not going to rehash the whole list of what I did, but really integrating those questions about soil health into our existing monitoring questionnaire that goes out to all of our existing easement holders. So all 83 or 86 or whatever number I gave you of all of them. How we could integrate it into our communications, like our quarterly newsletter, that it's already set to go out at a certain date. Like the platform's already there. Like how can we start broaching the subject and build upon that? How we can get the information on our website that's super fast, good turnaround time, and we can like check it off and like pat ourselves on the back. And then like a more concerted effort to relating our work at our farm, at our tree plantings directly back to soil health. I talk about water quality all the time, but I think like part and parcel to that needs to be water quality and soil health. We made some really major headway with 2 soil and water conservation districts that work in our area. We're actually kind of on contract, not kind of, we are on contract to do communication and outreach for the John Marshall Soil and Water Conservation District. So we're actually featuring stories of farmers in our area, the soil health and other cost share practices that they've done on their properties and how to bring them to the door of the Soil and Water Conservation District to sign up. So it's great that we have this like really forged bond now. And we also are building that bond with the other major soil and water conservation district in our area. They asked us to have a 2-pager in their upcoming newsletter. So we just think this is a great opportunity to start there. And then really, it's kind of like planning phase for the end of 2022, which it feels like December is already over and done with for me. I don't know about all of you that are trying to close on like 5 easements before then, but it's kind of already done. And then the beginning of 2023. So we do a conservation mailer that goes to every household with 40 acres or more in our 9-county region. So it's thousands of mailings that go out every year, mostly 100% about conservation easements. We're like, how can we integrate soil health into this and provide additional resources for folks beyond just like the easement pitch that we do every single year? So that is integrated into the mailing for the first quarter of 2023. Since we're doing our work plan development for the next year with all of the program staff, we are scheduling out our outreach events and more field walks, because that is going to be our opportunity to bring those experts, those agency folks, and we bring the people because we're really good at like the people portion of it, to have those conversations. And we are part of that like 41% or whatever that said that we are doing the internal tracking to evaluate progress and touch points along the way. We never think that one touch is going to do it. We need all the touches, right? And so as many times as we can track these conversations that I've had with John Smith, and if there's an upcoming outreach event a couple months down the road, I know John Smith is already interested in soil health, I can make a direct contact with him because we are tracking him in Salesforce now over time. And so it will be great for us to see if John Smith turns out to be an easement donor or like really invested in some of our programmatic work, particularly around soil health, that might just be the gateway into having other conversations too. So that's all we've been doing since April. And I'll just turn it back to you, Beth.
That's all you've been doing since April. So thank you so much. That was wonderful. Does anybody have any questions for Maggie or for myself? I feel like we've asked you that every single session. And sometimes you do, and sometimes you don't. You can put it in the chat.
I will just say that I thought it was really beneficial just hearing people be like honest about when I took this training about what they've been able to do and the thinking behind it. I also thought it was helpful. Beth and Chris give an example of like what an action plan kind of looks like, and I gleaned a lot of information from there. But I would be happy to share my action plan too. I think it's like very helpful to see examples of what other organizations are trying to bite off, even if it's like too much to actually chew at the time. Again, I learned from all of you, from all of my colleagues out there.
Allison.
Hi, my question is possibly more specific than I'll be able to address in my own agency's action plan. But I was just curious when you talked about adding some information about soil health into your communication with your easement owners. I was wondering if you were doing that just at the point of acquisition or if you were doing that kind of like as an annual outreach program or something more dedicated to wrap those people in whose easements aren't new.
Yeah, and so we actually have more emphasis on the existing easements than on the front end acquisition. Of course, talking front end, but those landowners who are even thinking about easements have so much coming at them, like soil health, probably a little lower than like tax incentives and like when you're going to close. But the existing easement donors, we send out an easement questionnaire every single year to be like, are you interested in this practice? Here's a picture of what it looks like. Are you interested in this practice? So that is where we put the soil health information, just for the folks who have already done the big thing, right? The big thing was the easement. But then there's like a whole legacy of how to steward that easement over time. So those are actually our focus areas, because many of those easements happen like in the 80s, right? And so we're trying to get everyone a little more up to speed. Those easement terms are a little old. They might not have buffer language, you know? So again, happy to share what our easement questionnaire looks like as well. We send that out in paper copy and through Salesforce.
Oh, that's interesting. So you send out kind of the questionnaire, and then as people get back to you, you kind of tailor your response to what their needs are. Okay. Thank you so much.
Yeah, we tailor it actually to our stewardship visit. So if they are interested in it, I can actually bring Soil and Water Conservation District along, or just come with the information wherever they're ready to start.
Okay, thank you so much.
That is very helpful, Maggie. And I will, for everybody else, I will get those samples, those examples from Maggie and share them with you. And it makes me think that one thing we haven't talked about in terms of another resource is that the National Ag Land Network, which is the NALN, which is Chris's director, I'm manager, Jamie, I'm pointing that way, is the coordinator. We have an online platform, and I know it's another like virtual situation, but we have over 800 members from across the country who are just like you. They're working in land trust, and they're working in public programs, and they're working for departments of agriculture on the exact same work that you're doing. And that network, that virtual network, has become very chatty recently about different things. One of the things we have done is created a private group for everybody who's gone through the soil health stewards training. And in that private group, things like, here's my newsletter article, or I've got this social media post, or heck, I just went and this farmer just said this to me, what do I do? It's a place for you to be and have access to your peers. In order to get access to the platform and to that private community, we just ask that you fill out the NALN membership form. Membership is free. You can join as an individual or as an organization, but gives us a way to make sure that the people in that space should be in that space. So it's just, I can see Jamie working already. She's going to put that, that link in the chat. This is not a hard sell for that. I want you to be able to ask Maggie questions, but it did make me think that that's another resource that's available out there to you as you begin this journey. Anybody have any other questions for Maggie? And Chris, I want to make sure that I've given you at least the last couple of minutes to add to this presentation and to get us ready for tomorrow. So we've got about 6 more minutes left. Anybody have any other? Maggie, that was fabulous. Anybody have any other questions or thoughts?
No, we did have a whole, I'm checking the chat, and there was a request, Maggie, for you to share your action plan. So if we can do that, that would be terrific.
Yes, absolutely.
And well, we could literally put it in the files section of this, Maggie. Do you mind?
Oh, I don't
Great.
mind. Yeah.
Jamie, go for it. Oh, you already did?
You're like, so great.
Yeah,
it's done.
you gotta watch that, Jamie Harrison. So she's already in the files section is, what did you call it? Oh, Piedmont Environmental Council Action Plan example. So there you go, guys. And like, if you, and know this is a lot of information in a very short amount of time. And so tomorrow, if anybody tonight is so inspired they want to look at that action plan, you have questions tomorrow, that's fine. But even in a week or 10 days, if you've looked at that and have questions, please know that we're here. And I want to clarify that action plans are per entity, not per participant. So that the entity that you're working for will submit one of those Excel sheets. And we really, really don't want you to feel like that is overwhelming. So talk to us if it is.
I'm intrigued by Maggie. Maggie, I'm so impressed with all that you guys do on top of all that you already did, but I'm so intrigued by your conservation mailer that goes to every landowner with 40+ acres. And is that something that is both around easements and all the other work that PEC does? So, and it's a once a year mailer, sort of, hey, we're here, this is what we do?
It's a once a year mailer, and it's just about land conservation, because we actually do so many things that it would be very confusing, you know?
Okay.
So this is a basic like easement 101 mailer that goes to everyone. And I like to say that we're really non-denominational when it comes to who an easement holder is. So if we can pass along information and they might go hold their easement with the state, with another nonprofit, you know, that's great. Our big role is outreach, education, and a lot of that like hand holding and personal touches. So we do that. It costs many thousands of dollars, and I write grants to send that thing every year, but we also have it online. It has turned out to be a really wonderful outreach tool. And after the first quarter, after it goes out, we always get the inquiries coming in after that.
Interesting.
That is interesting.
Thank you all so much. Thank you, Jamie and Chris and Beth and all of you little boxes around there. Always inspired, and thanks for letting me come and join for a couple of minutes.
Well, we really appreciate Maggie. That was really helpful. Thank you. And inspiring. So thank you so much.